I was there when the truth cracked open like a dying star. Not on purpose, not because I mattered. I was a station mechanic. Grease under my nails, engine soot in my lungs, no medals, no rank. Just another man fixing what the diplomats and generals didn't bother to understand. But that day rewrote everything. It started with static, low, heavy vibrations humming through the bulkheads of Outpost 14, a quiet little listening station hugging Saturn's black shadow. We'd been hearing chatter for weeks, drone signals bouncing from the outer systems, coded in languages we didn't recognize, but still rhythmic, purposeful. Someone was moving. Command said it was nothing. Cosmic noise, they said. Gravitational lensing interference, they said. I didn't believe that shit for a second. And neither did the chief. His name was Bennett. Not Captain Bennett or Fleet Officer Bennett. Just Bennett. He used to be Navy, way back. Retired after losing half his crew in a pirate skirmish near Alpha Centauri. Didn't talk much, but when he did, you listened like your life depended on it. The night it all began, he came into the engine bay with that look, the one where you knew something real was coming. "They're not supposed to be this close," he muttered. I set down my wrench. "What's not?" He just stared at the reactor for a while, like it held the answer. "The Arcsid Empire. 3 fleets, fully armed. They're holding near Neptune, not moving, not speaking." I laughed. "Staring contest?" "No," he said cold. "They're waiting." "For what?" Then he whispered it like a man speaking a curse. "For us to show our teeth." That night we all got the call. Station-wide lockdown, level red protocol. We'd only trained for that once. I remember the instructor saying, "If you ever hear this alert in real life, kiss your station goodbye. It means Earth has been caught with its pants down." But Earth wasn't scrambling. It was silent. Not a single broadcast from high command. No fleet deployment, no speeches, no stand firm, sons of humanity kind of morale garbage. Just dead air. That's when fear crept in. Not fear of the Arcsid, no. Fear of what we didn't know. Of what Earth might already know. 2 days later, the Arcsid moved. Not to attack, not yet, but to speak. For the first time in known history, they sent an open transmission to every human station in the solar system. The message was simple. "We've waited long enough. Unseal the vaults. Reveal what you've hidden beneath the crust of your dying world." No threats, no ultimatums, just a demand. Everyone was confused. Vaults? What vaults? But not Bennett. He stared at the message like a man staring into the mouth of something old. Something ancient. And I swear I saw his hand shaking. I cornered him later. "You know what they're talking about," I said. He didn't deny it. "I've seen one," he murmured. "Back when I was in Black Ops, before it all got erased. It wasn't man-made, or maybe it was, but it wasn't modern. It was buried beneath Antarctica, big enough to swallow a battleship. We weren't supposed to wake it." "What was it?" He met my eyes with something I still can't explain. "It wasn't a weapon. It was a warning." Before I could ask more, alarms exploded across the station. Power fluctuations, core anomalies, lights strobing in erratic red. Then the deep groaning sound, metal shifting but from below. Not from our station, from the planet, from Earth. It was as if the planet itself was waking up. And somewhere, deep beneath our cities and oceans and deserts, something ancient was rising. When the alarms hit full tilt, the entire station felt like it was shaking apart. Not the quick bursts you get when something malfunctions. This was slow, steady, like something massive was turning beneath us, and the metal of the station was trying to decide whether to scream or collapse. Lights flickered, doors jammed. Systems we didn't even know we had came online by themselves. Locked panels opened, hidden consoles activated, code strings in languages we didn't recognize scrolled across monitors we'd only used for inventory. The emergency broadcast system stuttered, then snapped to life. But it wasn't command. It was Earth, a voice, male, deep, no name attached, cut through the static. This is Directive 17. Do not interfere. Do not engage. Observation protocol only. Your purpose is to witness. Witness what? We didn't have to wait long to find out. On the main screen, Earth rotated slowly beneath us. Everything looked normal. Cloud systems, ocean masses, the familiar continents we'd all grown up seeing from this perch. Then, from deep within the Pacific, something lit up. Not like an explosion, no shockwave, no ripple, just light. Bright, white gold and structured. Lines, arcs, pulsing beams, like the ocean had opened its eye and was looking straight up at us. Bennett stood behind me, arms folded, staring at the screen like he was back in that frozen hole in Antarctica. His face was pale but steady. I knew they'd hidden more, he said quietly, but I didn't know they'd actually built them. What is that? I asked, even though I didn't expect a real answer. He didn't say anything, just pointed. From the light, shapes began to rise. It wasn't fast, it was deliberate, intentional. Massive plates, hundreds of meters long, broke the ocean's surface in silence. No fire, no energy trail, just presence. Ancient, impossibly engineered. They didn't belong to this age, or any age we'd ever claimed as ours. Dreadnoughts, Bennett whispered. I laughed without humor. We don't even make ships that size anymore. Because we're not allowed to, he said. Because treaties were signed in secret. Because when we found the first one, we promised never to activate them again. I felt my chest tighten. Wait, you're saying we didn't build those? No, I'm saying we found them. And then we built more. Because that's what we do, isn't it? We copy, we improve, and we make it deadlier. The room was dead silent, save for the hum of systems struggling to process what we were seeing. The screen zoomed, adjusted resolution. The details were impossible. These weren't just ships. They were layered in something that didn't reflect light properly, armor that looked like obsidian until it moved, and then shimmered like mercury under stress. No visible engines, no external weaponry, but every part of my body told me these things were war. They rose from the ocean like titans called from sleep, and with each meter they climbed, the water around them receded like it was scared. They weren't built to impress. They were built to remind the universe why it feared us once. Bennett turned to me. Back when I saw the one under the ice, the techs that handled it weren't soldiers. They were historians, linguists. They said the hull was inscribed with a language older than cuneiform, older than any known written record. What did it say? He hesitated, then looked me right in the eyes. We were first, and we remember the stars bleeding. I didn't understand then, not fully, but I felt something in my spine lock up, like some distant part of my DNA knew exactly what he meant, like something buried in every human being had just woken up. Across the system, chaos exploded. We monitored the other colonies, orbital stations, deep space scouts. Every single one received the same Earth-wide activation signal. Mars went dark for 8 minutes, then came back online with its defense grid reset. Luna Base, usually dormant, lit up with a power surge so massive it cooked 3 satellites in orbit. And on Neptune's edge, the Arcsid ships moved. Not forward, not toward Earth. Back. They started retreating. I watched in disbelief as entire battle groups began realigning in panic. They weren't preparing to attack. They were trying to escape. Bennett actually laughed then. It wasn't joy. It was a broken, bitter laugh. Like he'd waited his whole life for this moment and hated every second of it. They thought we were still children, he said. Still soft. Still bound by our own short memories. We are, I said. No, he growled. That's just the mask. This... He pointed to the screen, where the Dreadnoughts now hovered miles above the ocean, gleaming like the wrath of forgotten gods. This is what we really are. The message from Earth updated. New instruction. Stage 1 complete. Stand by for Vault Ascension sequence. That's when I felt the station temperature drop by 5 degrees. Systems blinked. We lost gravity for 3 seconds. And when it came back, Bennett grabbed my arm hard. Get to the observation deck. Why? Because the sky's about to split in half. I ran up the main spine, past confused engineers and terrified cadets. The station was no longer under our control. Everything was rerouting, shifting to AI-driven systems locked under something called Protocol Origin, something none of us had even heard of before. When I reached the deck, the view punched me straight in the chest. Above Earth. Something was forming. Not from orbit, not from launch pads, from space itself. A shape, a ring, enormous, blacker than the void around it, slowly growing, assembling, like pieces of dead galaxies were being drawn to a central point. What the hell is that? I said aloud. A voice behind me, female, smooth, but distorted, came from the intercom. This is AI Core Seraph 1. You are observing Vault Ascension Node Theta. Please remain calm. Remain calm? I barked. What's a Vault Ascension node? No answer. I looked back down at Earth. The Dreadnoughts weren't just floating. They were aligning. 6 of them. Perfect formation. Rotating slowly, locking into place like chess pieces you'd never realized were part of the board. Their hulls shimmered with that impossible light again, almost like stars reflecting through water. And then the signal came. A deep, low tone, not heard but felt. It vibrated through the deck, through our bones, like someone plucking a cord inside the universe itself. The moment it hit, the Dreadnoughts lit up. Each of them projected a beam of black light, yes, black, up into the vault node. Not darkness, something worse. Absence, the kind of light that devours stars. And the node answered. It spun. Fast. Then opened. From its center came a pulse, like a heartbeat, and something began to descend. Another Dreadnought. But this one wasn't from Earth. This was older. Its hull was cracked in places, scarred with impacts that looked like they came from singularity weapons. It had no clean lines. It was jagged, brutal, more like a monument to destruction than a vessel. But it still radiated that same energy. Bennett walked up behind me, breathing hard. That's the original, he said. How do you know? Because I've dreamed about it since I was 9 years old. I looked at him, confused. He didn't even blink. They never told us why we weren't allowed in certain ruins, never explained why half the world's history was redacted after 2075. But my father was part of the first retrieval team. He said they found things in the Mariana Trench that weren't dead, just waiting. He leaned forward, pressed a hand to the glass. This isn't just about scaring aliens. It's about remembering who we were before we forgot. Before we buried it all. I said nothing. Because part of me agreed with him. Even as that ancient thing descended from the vault, I couldn't feel fear anymore. Only one question screamed in my head. Why did we ever hide this? And the deeper question, what made us think we needed to? The original Dreadnought hovered in silence, casting a shadow across the orbital layer of Earth, so massive that even the sun's rays seemed to bend around it. It didn't move like the others. It didn't need to. This one commanded stillness. It existed like a mountain exists, unchanged, unbothered, and too damn old to care about anything except the purpose it had waited for. I couldn't stop staring at it. This wasn't some marvel of futuristic engineering. This was something found, dug up from the deepest trenches of history. And it wasn't built to look beautiful or sleek. It was built to last. The kind of vessel designed during the kind of war we weren't supposed to remember. Bennett stood beside me, arms crossed, jaw clenched like he was grinding old memories back into life. He spoke without looking at me. Do you see the scar across its middle deck? I nodded. It was massive, cut clean through the plating like someone had taken a planetary laser to it and barely made a dent. That wasn't from an attack, he said. What was it from then? A warning, from the ones that built it. I turned slowly toward him, trying to read the weight in his voice. You're not making any damn sense, Bennett. He sighed, looked down, then finally faced me. They didn't build these to fight aliens. They built them to fight us, the ones who came before, the ones who reached too far and forgot what they were. They called them the Forerunners, but that's a polite name. They were gods with egos, men with too much power and no fear. And we were what? The next version? We were their punishment. The Dreadnought rotated slightly, revealing its underbelly, lines of architecture that didn't follow any modern design theory. The more I stared, the more wrong it felt. Not evil, not corrupt, just out of time. A subroutine in our station's system activated suddenly. None of us touched anything. The AI core hummed, and the old analog speakers crackled. Then the voice came. Not a broadcast, not a message, a memory. This is Archivist 0, Cycle 219, final act of remembrance before containment. If you are hearing this, the vault has awakened. Humanity has been compromised or evolved. The room fell dead silent. This vessel is designated Nihilum. It was not created by your civilization, but it was inherited. Inside it lies knowledge your age cannot understand, and warnings your minds are not prepared to follow. Do not awaken the core. Do not seek the archives. Do not attempt communion with the Primarch. The signal cut. No static. No trace. Like someone had sliced a thread tied between dimensions. I swallowed, throat dry. What's the Primarch? Bennett answered without hesitation. The one who remembers. The one who was humanity before it became human. You're talking mythology. I wish I was. Before I could respond, a blaring alert hit the observation deck. Incoming vessel, fast. I turned to the screen. Not Arxid. Not anything alien. It was one of ours, a stealth-class ship. Small, agile, no markings, no transponder. The kind of ship that doesn't officially exist but answers only to black budget directives buried 5 layers beneath the military database. It docked with our station without permission. The airlocks didn't protest. It was like the station had been waiting for it. 3 people stepped out. All in black, no rank insignia. Faces like statues, calm, cold, unreadable. The one in front was a man, older, hair slicked back like a relic from a different era. He walked into the deck with his hands behind his back, scanned the room, then fixed his eyes on Bennett. You weren't supposed to speak, old friend. Bennett didn't flinch. I wasn't supposed to survive either. Guess we both made mistakes. The man approached him slowly, step by step, like he was circling a dangerous animal. "You've told him everything, haven't you?" "Not everything. Just enough." Now the man turned to me. "You," he said flatly. "Name." I frowned. "Vince." He nodded. "You were not meant to witness this." "Yeah, well, I was on shift when the sky cracked open. What do you want me to do? Close my eyes?" He stared a second longer than necessary. Then he smiled. It wasn't a good smile. It was the kind of smile that said, "I know something you don't, and never will." "Congratulations," he said. "You're now part of the oldest lie in human history." He turned, gestured to one of his agents. She stepped forward with a small black case. He opened it. Inside was a neural band. A simple one. Old tech. He held it out. "You're going to interface with Nihilum. You're going to see what we buried and why." Bennett snapped. "He's not ready." The man didn't blink. "No one is, but we don't have time." I looked at them both. "Why me?" The agent who hadn't spoken finally did. "Because it's choosing you. The ship. It's calling." And she wasn't lying. Even before I touched the neural band, I felt it, like a whisper, somewhere deep in my brain. Something older than thought. Something waiting. I put the band on. The world blinked. There are no words to fully describe what I saw inside Nihilum. It wasn't a place. It was a memory, an emotion. I saw planets burning, not from invasion, but from regret. I saw beings, tall and elegant, bleeding blue light from their eyes as they destroyed the very machines they'd built to protect them. I saw Earth, not as it is now, but as it was before it ever cooled, a black sphere of molten fury. And in orbit I saw ships, thousands of them, dreadnoughts, watching, guarding, waiting. I saw the Primarch. Not a man, not even close. It wore a face, but only to speak. Behind it was something else, a mass of code and memory and fire. It looked at me not like a god, but like a disappointed ancestor. And it said only one thing. "We are the cost of your becoming." Then it showed me the truth. Humanity wasn't the first. We were the restart. After the fall, after the war that broke time, we were the clean slate. But someone had cheated. Someone had left pieces behind. Dreadnoughts, the vaults, the Primarch, the failsafe that waited to see if we would become the same monsters again. When I came back to myself, I was on the floor, gasping, cold. The man in black knelt beside me. "What did it show you?" I looked at him, right in the eyes. "Everything." He stood. "Then you understand why we hid it, why we lied, why we killed to protect it." Bennett spoke now, bitter. "You didn't protect it. You protected yourselves." The man snapped his fingers. His agents raised weapons. "We can't let the galaxy know what we were, not yet." But it was too late. Every screen on the station lit up, and on every colony across the system, the same image appeared. The Primarch, speaking in all languages. Not a threat, not a demand, just one truth. "We remember what was, and we see what you have become." The signal cut. The man in black lowered his hand. Bennett smiled, finally. "Looks like your secret's out." The man stared at the screen for a long time, then turned and walked away without a word. It didn't take long. The moment the Primarch's broadcast hit every known communication line, translated perfectly, simultaneously, in over 1,000 dialects, The galaxy began to unravel. On the outer edges of Arxid space, fleets scrambled like cornered animals. I watched on our feeds as their command ships broke formation, abandoning their colonies, pulling back into deep space like something was chasing them. Except nothing was. They were running from what they saw, from what they now knew. Other species weren't so lucky. The Threnari Collective, masters of genetic memory, recognized the patterns on the Dreadnought hulls instantly. Their archives went into lockdown. Their central AI system, the one that governed 15 planets, shut itself off. As in, suicided. They didn't say why, they didn't have to. The Dreadnoughts weren't just powerful. They weren't just old. They were recognized. The galaxy didn't know humans had built ships like this. The galaxy didn't believe humans were ever capable of such scale. That's because we hadn't. We were just the ones still breathing. But the designs, the code, the deep structure of those Dreadnoughts, they matched relics from thousands of dead civilizations. Pieces buried on dead moons, ruins beneath neutron stars, skeletons carved into asteroid cores. We'd all found them, but no one had ever admitted it. Until now. I remember watching an emergency conference broadcast live from a neutral station near Proxima Beta. 47 alien delegates, each one representing a civilization with a military strong enough to glass planets. None of them spoke. They all stared at the still image of Nihilum hanging in orbit over Earth. Then one of them, a Uvranus general, finally asked the only question that mattered. How long have the humans known? The feed cut not long after. Back on our station, everything felt brittle. Like reality had been stretched too thin and was waiting for something sharp to tear through it. Bennett hadn't said much since the Primarch's reveal. He just stood near the viewport, watching Earth turn slowly beneath the looming shape of the original Dreadnought. I sat next to him. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Eventually, I broke the silence. What happens now? He didn't look at me. We wait. For what? He shrugged. For the galaxy to decide whether it wants to bow or burn. That night, a civilian transport out of Europa was destroyed. Not by humans, by the Vac Dominion. No warning, no declaration of war, just gone, vaporized. 500 people, families, engineers, children. Their official statement? Precautionary containment of a potentially galaxy-ending anomaly. I guess that's what we were now, an anomaly, a threat to everything built after the fall. We had always thought of ourselves as newcomers, the upstarts, the primitive race, barely crawling out of our solar system. But that was the lie. The real fear was that we weren't the beginning. We were the return. 2 days later, Earth broke its silence. A public broadcast. No encryption, no secrets. The man who delivered it wasn't a politician, not some diplomat in a polished suit. He was military, worn, scarred, voice like gravel. We did not build the Dreadnoughts, but we inherited them. When our ancestors burned the stars, they left warnings behind. We buried those warnings. We hid them. Because we were afraid. We are not afraid anymore. Let the galaxy remember, humanity is not fragile. We are what comes after fragility. Simple, cold, and absolutely terrifying. Because it was the truth. And every empire out there now had to ask themselves the same thing. If the humans are the descendants of the last extinction event, how long before they repeat it? 3 days passed. Then came the attack. Not on Earth, not even on a human colony, but on Nihilum, a combined strike team of 7 alien races. Black ships, invisible to normal scans. They got within 4 kilometers before any human sensors even noticed them. And that was when we learned what Nihilum really was. It didn't raise shields. It didn't deploy fighters. It spoke. One word, a single pulse, carved into the fabric of localized reality. Denied. Every attacking ship. Vanished. No wreckage, no debris, no radiation trail, just gone. Like they had never been. The rest of the galaxy heard the echo of that word. And for the first time in my life, I felt it. Fear. Not of something evil, not of an enemy, but of ourselves. Of the truth that maybe, just maybe, we were never meant to survive this long. That maybe the Ancient Ones had designed humanity as a test, or a trap, and we were reaching the part of the story where the final choice had to be made. Do we become what they were, or worse? Inside the station, our systems started changing. I noticed it first on the lower decks. Panels reassigning themselves, maps updating in real time. Ship designs we'd never seen before started showing up in the archive logs. And one file, just one, was locked behind a bio-encoded signature that matched me. I didn't understand it. I didn't want to. But when I opened it, I saw the plans for a new kind of dreadnought. Not one that was. One that could be. A weapon so advanced, even Nihilum listed it as theoretical. At the bottom of the file was a single line. The seed has chosen you. When I showed it to Bennett, he just nodded. They're not ships, he said. They're keys. To what? He looked out again, into the vast black beyond Earth. To what comes next? That night I slept, for the first time in days, and I dreamed. Not of the future, of the past. I saw men, not like us, but close, standing at the edge of a dying star, watching as their last enemy fell. I saw them build Nihilum, not as a victory monument, but as a warning. They knew their time was over, but they wanted the next ones to remember, to learn, or to repeat. And when I woke up, I wasn't afraid anymore, because the question was no longer what is humanity hiding? It was, what will we do now that it's all come back? The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere like a needle through old skin, silent, precise, and far too smooth for what it was carrying. I sat strapped in, boots locked to the floor, while the others around me stared out the reinforced windows. No one spoke. Even the veteran security officers stayed quiet. They'd all seen it. The awakening, the Dreadnoughts, the Primarch. They'd watched Earth rise in the galactic ranks, not by evolution but by revelation. We weren't a young race anymore. We were ancient, forgotten, buried, and now remembered. I looked down as we broke cloud cover. The Pacific glistened beneath us, blue, endless, but no longer peaceful. Around the coordinates where Nihilum had risen, the water was displaced. Not just pushed aside, warped, like the ocean itself had bent to make room for something it couldn't comprehend. Bennett sat across from me. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him, not physically, mentally. His eyes were distant, haunted, like he was still hearing things the rest of us hadn't caught yet. "Where are we going?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just stared at the floor, then said, "The core assembly. Level 0. You ever heard of it?" "No." "Exactly." The shuttle didn't land on any base or platform. Instead, it hovered over a dead patch of ocean. No structures, no ships, just water and wind. Then, without warning, the sea beneath us split, literally. A circle of ocean folded inward like a great invisible fist had clenched its center. What rose from the depths wasn't steel. It wasn't glass. It was obsidian, jet black, smooth, ancient, a tower, no windows, no seams, just a single triangular entryway that opened as our shuttle descended into it. "I thought this was some kind of briefing," I muttered. Bennett looked at me sideways. "This isn't a briefing. This is the reckoning." Inside, the silence felt wrong. It wasn't peaceful. It was oppressive, like sound didn't dare exist here. The walls pulsed with veins of dim light, and the temperature was colder than it should have been. A woman greeted us. Not military, not government, not even armed. She looked like she belonged to another world entirely. White robes, bare feet, eyes pale gray. "Vincent Cale," she said. My last name. No rank, no title, just a name I hadn't used since I was a kid. "Come." Bennett stayed back as I followed her down a corridor that sloped downward far too long for anything man-made. "Where are we?" "You are in the spinal root of Earth's last fallback system, the one that predates all known defense grids." "And what the hell does that mean?" She didn't stop walking. Her voice was smooth, empty. "It means you are standing in the place that was designed to activate, should the galaxy ever remember what humanity truly is." The tunnel ended in a chamber I can barely describe. It wasn't large, it wasn't glowing. It was quiet, dark, simple. In the center stood a pedestal. On it, a device. I recognized it instantly. It was the same neural band that had connected me to Nihilum. The woman turned to me. "It has chosen you." "Why?" "Because you are what they were. Stop talking in riddles." Her voice didn't rise. "Your bloodline traces to one of the original caretakers, the ones who walked with the Primarch during the fall. Not kings, not rulers, just those who remembered what came before. Each generation has carried a fragment of that memory. Yours is the last." I didn't believe it. Couldn't, but deep inside, I knew she wasn't lying. "I'm just a mechanic," I whispered. "You were, but you were also meant for this." She nodded toward the pedestal. "This time, it won't show you the past. This time, it will ask." I put on the band, and the world fell away. There were no stars, no ships, no war, just him, the Primarch. But this time he didn't speak like a god. He looked smaller, human, worn, tired. He stood in a barren field with a sky like ash and whispered, "Do you know why we burned it all, Vince?" I shook my head. Couldn't speak. Because knowledge isn't enough. Power isn't enough. We had everything, and we used it to dominate, to erase, to reshape entire galaxies in our image, and when we realized what we'd become, it was too late. He walked slowly through the field. Every step left behind a glowing symbol, ancient, runic. So we ended it. We buried the truth. We scattered the weapons. We wiped clean the stars. He turned and looked at me. "You carry the last seed, the last echo of what we were." I found my voice. "Why me?" "Because every cycle needs a choice. You are that choice." I shook my head. "I'm not a leader. I'm not a warrior." He smiled faintly. "That's why you're perfect." Then he showed me the final vault. Not on Earth, not in orbit, but beyond Pluto, buried in the crust of a dwarf planet that didn't even have a name. The last Dreadnought, larger than the rest, older than Nihilum. It wasn't sleeping. It was watching. The Primarch faded as the vision ended, but not before saying one final thing. "The galaxy fears you. Rightly so. But fear is not what defines you. What you do next will." I woke up gasping. The woman was still there. So was Bennett. He looked at me. "What did it ask?" I couldn't answer. Not yet. Because in my head, the choice was still burning. Activate the last Dreadnought, or leave it buried forever. That was what this was all about. Not war, not domination. Restraint. The Primarch didn't want to conquer the galaxy. He wanted to see if we'd finally learned to choose something else. But I didn't know what the right choice was, because for all our wisdom, all our growth, all our pain, we were still human, still capable of everything, still capable of anything. Back on the surface, Earth was changing. The Dreadnoughts no longer hovered. They moved, slowly, silently, forming a ring around the planet like sentinels watching over a fire that could go out or explode. The rest of the galaxy waited. And me? I carried the key, not to power, but to judgment. We were out of time. The moment I stepped back onto the orbital platform, I knew something had shifted. The stars didn't feel quiet anymore. They felt tense, like every light in the sky was holding its breath. Bennett walked beside me, slow and heavy, like the gravity had doubled. Neither of us spoke as we passed through the decontamination field and into the main control corridor. The Dreadnoughts were still above Earth, silent in formation. Guardians, executioners. No one knew, not even us, because what we'd learned, the truth we'd seen, wasn't something you could explain with briefings and reports. It wasn't politics, it wasn't science, it was consequence. Inside the command room, every console had been rerouted to a new protocol layer. Arc-Seed Priority Sigma, authorized by Core Bloodline Confirmation. Vincent Kale, primary vessel. The last word made my stomach twist. Vessel, not leader, not soldier, just something to be used. A container. Bennett sat across from me. His voice was low. The Dreadnoughts are sinking, one by one. They're waiting for the last piece. You mean the final one, the big one? He nodded. The one beyond Pluto, the Ark class. I leaned back and exhaled, slow. That was the one the Primarch had shown me, the one watching. I don't think I'm supposed to activate it. Bennett didn't look surprised. Why not? Because if I do, everything changes. This stops being a warning. It becomes a challenge. He nodded again, quietly. We built Dreadnoughts in the past to defend ourselves, but that last one, the Ark class, that's not defense. No, I agreed. It's judgment. That was when the emergency sirens started to scream. I jumped up. Bennett didn't. He just said one word under his breath. Too soon. We raced to the viewport, and what we saw chilled my blood. They had come. The Sulavari Combine, a three-species alliance known for their strict technocratic doctrines and cold logic, had deployed their primary fleet. 80 ships, Class A plasma platforms, orbital siege stations. War was no longer a possibility. It had arrived. They didn't send a message. They didn't broadcast demands. They just drifted closer, in silence, like wolves sniffing the edge of the village. Earth's orbital defenses went live. The Dreadnoughts stirred. Not moving. Just aware. They didn't need orders. They didn't ask for permission, because they weren't under our command. Not really. They were obeying the protocol, and I was its key. Should we hail them? I asked. Bennett shook his head. They've already decided what we are. I frowned. And what's that? He didn't hesitate. Too dangerous to live. The Sulavari fleet opened its outer hatches. Energy signatures climbed. Weapons warmed. I could feel it building in my bones. Not fear, not even adrenaline. I felt destiny moving, and I hated it. That's when I made the choice. Patch me through to them, I told the AI console. It hesitated, then obeyed. The channel opened. Speak, came the Sulavari commander's voice, cold, filtered, mechanical. This is Vincent Kale. I don't speak for Earth. I speak for something older. Silence. Then, you activated the vault. That was your mistake. No, I said. The mistake would have been staying quiet, pretending we were still weak, still lost. You unearthed weapons older than law. No, I replied firmly. I remembered what we were. Another pause. Then, you do not understand what your kind truly is. The galaxy does. That hit harder than I expected. Because it wasn't a threat. It was regret. They weren't here to kill us. They were here to prevent something worse. I ended the call. Prep a shuttle, I said. Bennett stared at me. Where the hell are you going? To the outer system. To the Ark class. He stood. Alone? Yes. Vince, if you wake that thing, there's no turning back. The others will follow it. That's the anchor ship. The one the Primarch's tied to the core star map. It's not a dreadnought. It's a goddamn catalyst. I know. Then why? Because I'm not waking it, I snapped. I'm going to seal it. That shut him up. I think that's what this is all about, I added. It's not a question of what we can do. It's whether we know when not to. The shuttle prepped fast. No escorts, no weapons. Just me, a neural core interface, and a location outside known civilization. 3 hours later, I was past Neptune. The silence out there wasn't peaceful. It was alert, like space itself was watching me. Then I saw it, not on radar, not on thermals, just there. A shape in the dark, massive, unmoving, covered in what looked like obsidian ice, the Ark class, Dreadnought. Even Nihilum looked like a knife compared to this fortress. My ship docked automatically. The seal was ancient but perfect. Inside, darkness, cold, silence, until the ship spoke. You are the choice. I didn't answer. You carry the key. You carry the seed. I stepped forward. What happens if I don't activate you? Then the cycle ends. This time, in silence. I swallowed. You were built to destroy them. Number I was built to remind them. Of what? That fire comes from within. I approached the core panel. It pulsed with light. One handprint scan would be all it took. One thought, and the entire Dreadnought fleet would rise as one body, under me. I stood there for a long time. Then I pulled my hand back. I'm not doing it, I whispered. Silence. Accepted. Suddenly, every Dreadnought signal across the solar system shifted, not to red, not to war, but to stasis. The galaxy had expected judgment. I gave them restraint. When I returned, Earth was still standing. The Sulavari fleet was gone. No battle, no exchange of fire, just a silent retreat. Not because we threatened them, but because they saw what we chose. And maybe that scared them more than any weapon. Because humanity had learned to hold the knife, and not use it. The Sulavari retreat didn't come with a message. No apology, no diplomacy, just a silent, full withdrawal from Earth's orbital edge. But they didn't leave because we beat them. We didn't fire a single shot. They left because I didn't. They came expecting a monster, and they saw a man standing at the edge of apocalyptic power, and choosing not to use it. That scared them more than war ever could. I wasn't ready for what came next. Within 36 hours, our systems were overwhelmed with incoming transmissions from all corners of known space. Not war threats, not attacks, requests. Some wanted dialogue, others sought treaties. A few asked for clarification on our new hierarchy of weapons. But the worst ones? They asked to learn. They wanted to copy what they saw. Governments, empires, whole systems of power wanted access to the ancient tech buried beneath Earth. They wanted keys, seeds, activation codes, to be like us, but they didn't understand. We weren't powerful because of what we had. We were dangerous because of what we'd chosen not to unleash. And now, the very thing we feared was beginning. They wanted to build their own Ark classes. Bennett and I watched the messages flood in from the command center. His expression was carved in stone, but I could see the weight dragging behind his eyes. Sooner or later, he said, one of them's gonna find their own. I nodded. Or worse, awaken something that was never meant to be found. He looked at me. What are you going to do, Vince? I don't know. Because I didn't. I wasn't trained for this. I didn't ask to become the face of humanity's second awakening. But that's what I was now. To Earth, I was the man who held the keys and refused to turn them. To the galaxy, I was the symbol of a species too old to understand and too quiet to trust. And to myself, I was a man who hadn't slept in 4 days, and still didn't know if what I did was right. Then came the call, encrypted, buried deep under a dead military relay. When I answered, there was no video, just voice, rough, familiar. "Vince," I stiffened. "Who is this?" "You don't remember me. That's fine. You were young when your father vanished. But I knew him, served with him, and I've got something for you." My pulse spiked. "I don't have a father." "You do," the voice said quietly. "He was one of the last active guardians of the Ark class before it went dormant. He didn't die, Vince. He volunteered." I stared at the screen like it could answer back. "What do you want?" "I want you to finish what he started." "Which is?" "Not saving humanity. Reminding it." The call ended with coordinates. Deep space, outside known trade lanes, past the dead sectors. I didn't know what I expected, but I knew I had to go. I left the same night. Bennett didn't try to stop me. In fact, he just handed me a case before I boarded the long-range scout vessel. Inside were files, handwritten notes, old ones, from my father. I read them on the journey, and what I saw shifted everything I thought I understood. He wasn't just a technician or historian. He was a catalyst monitor. Someone trained to observe humanity's psychological and ethical growth as a species, through its wars, collapses, triumphs. He wasn't waiting for activation. He was waiting to see if we'd evolve past the need for it. And apparently, I was part of that plan. In his final journal entry, dated 2 years before my birth, he wrote, "If he ever learns the truth, I hope he understands. We weren't meant to stop the galaxy. We were meant to show it. The real weapon isn't what we buried. It's what we chose not to use." I arrived at the coordinates 2 days later. There was nothing, just space. Until my ship began to slow on its own. I checked navigation, no errors. The ship was being guided. A rift opened in front of me, not a wormhole, not a jump gate, something else. I didn't fight it. When I crossed the threshold, I entered a zone beyond mapped space. A graveyard, hundreds of hulks, alien ships, ancient human crafts, things that didn't have names, and in the middle, a station, old, broken, still alive. Inside I found him, not my father, but the man who once served beside him. Gray hair, scar across his jaw. No uniform. He wore a simple cloth vest with the mark of the Primarch etched across it. He greeted me with one sentence. "We never meant to be remembered." His name was Crane. He was part of the original shadow group that first decoded Vault 1, before any dreadnought rose, before Earth remembered. He walked me through the station, showed me relics, archives, failed designs, prototypes too unstable to survive, and he told me what I'd come to hear. "This was the real plan," Crane said. "We knew others would come, that other races would evolve, but not all would understand restraint, not all would respect silence." I nodded. "So you left the Dreadnoughts?" "Yes, as warnings." "And the Ark class?" He paused. "That was never meant to be activated. It wasn't a weapon. It was a mirror." I didn't understand. He walked me to a sealed room, opened it. Inside was a replica of the same neural interface I'd used on Nihilum, but smaller. Personal. He pointed. "This one's different. It doesn't show you the past. It shows you what you are." I sat, connected. And for the first time, I didn't see the war. I saw myself. Every choice, every moment of doubt. Every time I'd looked into the face of destruction and said, "Not today," and I understood. The Primarch hadn't chosen me because of bloodlines or genetics or training. It chose me because I knew when not to reach for the fire. Crane smiled as I removed the band. "You're ready," he said. "For what?" "To teach them what you've learned." I returned to Earth a week later. The Dreadnoughts were still dormant, the world still spinning. But something had changed. Me. I didn't feel like a mechanic anymore. Didn't feel like a soldier or symbol. I felt awake. Bennett met me at the dock. Where the hell did you go? To find the one thing no dreadnought can provide. And what's that? Perspective. He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. What now? Now. We build nothing. We awaken no more monsters. We bury nothing else. Now we teach. The dreadnoughts never left orbit. They never fired a shot, never activated a single weapon, never moved from their silent sentinel formation. Yet their presence changed everything. Their very existence was a message the galaxy couldn't ignore. Humanity remembers. And remembering is more dangerous than war. Word spread faster than any fleet. The Sulivari fell back into obscurity, their aggression subdued not by power, but by restraint. The Threnari refused to make contact again. They issued a single communique through a brokered relay. The memory of fire has returned. Let silence remain. Even the Arcsid, once poised for conquest, initiated a withdrawal from contested human systems. No treaties, no apologies, just disappearance. But it wasn't fear that drove them. It was something worse. It was respect. Because the moment humanity chose not to awaken the Arc class, we became the most unpredictable force in the known universe. Unpredictability, especially in the hands of an ancient race with unknown ceilings, was a threat no empire could afford to provoke. And so Earth rose. Not through domination, not through conquest, but through example. We became a center, not of power, but of gravity. Species once hostile now sought entry into what was being called the Vessel Accord, an alliance bound not by weapons, but by shared restraint. A rare thing in a galaxy used to firepower solving every problem. But peace isn't clean, and it sure as hell isn't easy. It doesn't come without ghosts or sacrifice. And for me, the cost was personal. The days after I returned from the memory station were filled with diplomatic sessions, secret meetings, quiet gatherings of the last few men and women who still remembered what we had unearthed. They called me a guide, an anchor. Some even used the word prophet. I hated all of it. I never wanted that. All I wanted was to make sure no one else lit the match. And for a while, I believed we'd done that. But deep in the corners of the galaxy, I began to hear whispers. Private arms developers on the fringe worlds were beginning to emulate the Dreadnought code. Not replicate, not steal, just guess. And they were getting close. Too close. It had begun. The same cycle. The one the Primarch warned me about. The one we thought we had broken? It was back. Because restraint can only be taught so far. At some point, someone always wants more. Bennett met me at the old vault complex beneath the Pacific where it all started. The last unactivated node lay dormant there, quietly humming with ancient power. He looked at me with that heavy stare, the kind a soldier gives when he knows exactly how many people are going to die next, and just wants someone else to say it out loud. They're building their own Vince. Arcsid, Sulivari, maybe even black cells in our own colonies. Some aren't trying to copy the Dreadnoughts. They're trying to build countermeasures. I nodded. I know. You know what that means, right? I do. He exhaled hard. You can't stop every one of them. You're not a damn god. I don't need to be, I said. He looked confused. That's when I opened the case I brought with me. Inside it, the personal neural interface, the one from Crane, the one that showed truth, not power. I'm going to let them see it, I said. Bennett went still. You're going to show them the seed. Number, I'm going to offer it to them. He shook his head, voice low. You really think they'll accept restraint over supremacy? No, I admitted, but I think some of them will. Enough to create a line, not a border. Not a wall, a moral horizon. The ones who cross it won't be able to claim ignorance." He studied me long and hard, then said something I'll never forget. "Teaching peace might be the most violent job in the galaxy." The first Council of Vessels was held on Luna. 16 species attended. Not all friendly, not all honest. But they came. That mattered. And I stood before them not as a ruler, not even as a representative of Earth, but as a man who had held the keys to the most powerful force in history, and chose silence. I showed them the seed, I explained the burden, and I asked them a simple question. Do you want to be remembered as builders of walls or carriers of memory? Some left, some scoffed, but some stayed. They formed the first voluntary restraint pact in known interstellar law, a living agreement, not enforced by guns, but by choice, a pact to share the knowledge of old without ever awakening the fire buried within. And that was the first time I felt like I had done something that might actually last. Years passed. Dreadnoughts still hovered, never moved, always watching. The galaxy slowly grew quieter, not at peace, but more cautious. And in that caution, we found understanding, not friendship, not utopia, but awareness. Species began teaching restraint in their war academies. Philosophers wrote about the human example. They debated what it meant that Earth could have burned everything, and didn't. And somewhere out there, on a planet I'll never visit, a child of a species I've never met is being told, strength is not the weapon, memory is. I never married, never built a life for myself beyond the role I was given. Because people like me? We don't live for comfort. We live for warning. And now, in my final years, as I write this from a quiet station orbiting the edge of Earth's moon, I know only one truth. We were never the first. But maybe, if we're careful, we'll be the last who ever need to make this choice. The Dreadnoughts remain, not as weapons, but as lessons. The galaxy watches Earth. And I watch right back. Because in the silence between stars, it isn't power that matters. It's what you do when no one is strong enough to stop you. And I pray that if someone out there forgets, they'll remember the man who had the key and didn't turn it.